Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your ongoing commitment to improving the quality of life in Evansville, reflected in the many things that you already mentioned. So now it is my great pleasure to be able to officially announce that Wellborn Baptist Foundation is the title sponsor of the Upgrade Bike Share program. Just for a minute or so about why we would do that. And to do that, by way of background, you have no doubt seen the Upgrade logo on signs in your stairwells, identifying healthy options on local menus, and marking trails in places like Westland Woods and Angel Mounds, among others. Upgrade is an area-wide initiative that encourages our residents just to take small steps that will help make them healthy for the long term. And we are passionate about helping to fund the systems that will make it easier for our community members to take those small steps. So the bike share is right in our sweet spot. The Upgrade Bike Share makes it easy to just grab a bike and go, knowing that there is a whole network of stations to go to. It's an easy way to add physical activity to your day. And long term, as more and more people take full advantage, demand for more stations than just the ones represented here will lead to demand for more streets to accommodate people using those bicycles. And before you know it, the whole community is embracing a more active lifestyle. So on behalf of the board and staff of Wellborn Baptist Foundation, we are very excited about this important step forward. I also want to recognize and thank those who are sponsoring the various stations that make this work. People kind of ringing the podium here. But last and by no means least, we are very excited about the Evansville Area Trails Coalition's important role in this, as well as in what follows. Their vision aligns with our vision, and that is for an extensive network of bike lanes, trails, and other infrastructure that will make this a community known for active living access. And I'd be remiss if I did not give special recognition to the man who has worked tirelessly with other community partners to bring this about, Don Jones at the University of Evansville. Don is president of the Evansville Area Trails Coalition, and he is vice president of marketing and communications for the University of Evansville. Don?
Thanks, Kevin. You look around the room and it does take a village. 2009, a group of about 10 people met to discuss the need for more trails, more walkable, bikeable city. That was the vision they wanted to see. And so they went on to develop this 501c3 organization to try and make that mechanism possible, if you will. Well, so along comes this mayor who decides that we're going to listen to what the community wants and listen to their needs, and created this organization along with Leadership Evansville called Voices. So they developed this active process of listening, and I think that's a theme you're going to hear as you look at this group back here. They'll tell you what they want if you listen. Well, when the mayor started this Voices community, started this visioning process, and it represented thousands of people across the city. And they came back with 3 different areas of action that they wanted to devote themselves to. One was healthy green space. A second was experiences, things to do in town. The third was the city core, to have a strong city core. Well, the Upgrade Bike Share program is a voice hat trick of a sort. Any of you are hockey fans out there. We hit all 3 of these focus areas, representing an opportunity for the Evansville Trails Coalition to bring that vision to life in a different way for community vision. With all the participants in Voice, have any of you been to the Voice sessions? You lift a hand out there, you see some voices, there you go. We listen. And it's important that we listen, because you have the ideas, Well, so the next thing that happened is you got this active board, the Evansville Area Trails Coalition, that started to hear this and said, well, okay, we hear the idea, but we want to make something real. It's not enough to talk about it. We've got great plans. We need to move forward. The mayor mentioned some of the plans. I see Syed sitting out there with NPO. We've got terrific plans. So now, as Kevin said, how do we start to implement some of these ideas? Well, bike share was kind of this idea off to the side. It wasn't the first idea in a plan, but it was one that you saw that could be the spark plug to get things going. And so at that point, the Trails Coalition started to pick it up. Would all the board and committee members of Evansville Trails Coalition raise your hands? I know there's some out there. So you see, this represents a cross-section of the community. These are people from all walks of life, all organizations that pulled together and said, we agree. We want Evansville to be a bike-friendly city. We want it to be a walker-friendly city, and that's where we're headed. So we heard this presentation from a couple of these high school teams right up here. They came in and presented to us. And the first thing everybody said was, oh my, what a marvel of the brains that we have in this city. And we want to keep them here, by the way, as the mayor said. So as a result of that work, 18 different organizations have come together in the last 6 months to pull this all together. Now at this point, I'm going to introduce Darren Lander, and he is co-chair, along with Matt Wagner in the crowd, of forming the marketing committee for the Evansville Area Trails Coalition. You see some of their work behind me. They took this video last week, by the way, and some of the things that are being handed out to you. But he's going to tell you some more about what's going on with the program and the inspiration for it.
Okay, so check this out. Now, I'm a lot of off-the-cuff kind of guy. So some people are getting a little worried. Don, if he has any hair left, he's going to probably pull it out for a couple of things that I'm going to do. All right, first things first. Everybody have a smartphone? Who has a smartphone out right now? Okay, take your smartphone out. I have to turn mine this way because I dropped it and my screen's cracked, so it's kind of embarrassing so the people back here can see it. Take your smartphone out. Evansville Area Trails on Facebook, okay? If you haven't liked that page yet, please go to that page, Evansville Area Trails. Like it on Facebook. All the media people back there checking it out too. So please make sure you do that because we'll have a lot of exciting announcements that do come from that. Yes, we've been extremely proud of all the things that have come out of the marketing committee, and we've been working extremely hard. Okay, now I'm going to go to my scripted stuff because otherwise I can keep going all over the place. So as you've heard the previous speakers say, we must actively listen to our future leaders of this community and making sure that Evansville is the kind of community they want to call home. So those of us who have been working on the project have already seen that Upgrade Bike Share will be attractive to the broader group of this community. And what you see collectively is the type of collaborative effort that the mayor described earlier. And this is becoming typical of Evansville and a clear example of our city's strength. The launch of the Upgrade Bike Share program is made possible by the work of the over 18 different organizations, including 7 different sponsors. Now, every one of the sponsoring organizations you see are doing so because they see that Evansville is a community that is worth this investment. Whether their objective is to improve the health of our citizens or it's in economic development through growth and tourism, or better access to transportation, these are organizations that are the foundation of this community's future. And critical to the work of our Evansville Area Trails Coalition has been the planning and the support provided by the Welborn Baptist Foundation through J.D. Levy and Associates. Now, as Kevin mentioned earlier, the program is an opportunity to expand the scope of the Upgrade Community Wellness Program and increase the opportunities for active living among residents of the Evansville community. Now, our Evansville Area Trails Coalition has also been very aligned with the Welborn Baptist Foundation's goal of supporting comprehensive master plans to incorporate physical activity into daily life. And while this is the most recent program announcement from the Evansville Area Trails Coalition, I can guarantee you there are some other pretty cool things that we have that are in the works, and you'll be hearing more about those in the future. So we intend to work with various Evansville City planning organizations to accelerate the development of the infrastructure needed to achieve our goal of making Evansville a vibrant, walkable, bikeable community. Upgrade Bike Share will grow and be sustainable because the diverse, broad-based support that you see at the table and within the Welborn Baptist Foundation, as well as their staff and the Evansville Area Trails Coalition supporting teams. It is going to be absolutely amazing to watch. Now this time I'd like to introduce you to an individual who has really been connected with this idea coming up in just the beginning. So Dr. Angela, is it Reister? Reister. Should have written it down. Reister, who was the UE Changemaker Challenge coach.
I'm up here just to give you an idea of the process and give you a feel for what the students worked on, and they can answer more questions afterwards if you have them for the students in particular. For us, this idea came out of the marriage of two programs, really. One was the Changemaker Challenge, and the other was the GAP program that we have, which bridges the gap between the university and the community at large. And I teach one of those classes, and the students in that class were tasked with improving energy efficiency and alternative energy in the city by working with individual businesses and nonprofits. And they decided, well, there's this Changemaker Challenge thing. What we really need to do is get the word out. We need to have an awareness campaign. And so they put together a presentation and were judged and got the money to do this awareness campaign. And in the planning for that, they said, we should have a petition. All right, what do you want a petition for? So they thought about it and they said, well, we really think we need a bike share program. A lot of us don't have cars. We have trouble getting to just to get to Walmart or CVS or something like that and then get back to campus. I said, okay, so petition for it, and they did. And so we went through a crazy week of improving energy efficiency on campus, and the project was done, check, and they came out and they had a couple hundred signatures on the petition. I said, great, what are you going to do now? And I said, well, we're going to do some research, I guess. We're going to do some research and we're going to make some calls, and so they did. And these students in this program, where they are allowed to determine their own project and go after it and make it happen, they were successful on many levels and kept after it. So well after final exam time was over, grades are in, everything is done. I have a student named Song who was in that class, and actually I think he Skyped in somewhere. Oh, over there, great. So I have a student who, what?
It's 12:30 in Seoul.
Oh, he's in Korea. He was an exchange student, and so he is Skyped in now. But he's making calls to the city, and so I'm on my Christmas break, and I'm taking phone calls from Zaxter and city officials going, who is this guy? Is this for real? Is this going to happen? Yeah, he's for real. So this is a remarkable program that we have. But more than that, there was remarkable students that were in it and continued to pursue their goals after the structure of class time. And then, of course, the high school students, they came up with the idea on their own. It was a completely different program. It was an idea whose time has come. And so it came from all these different directions. And I'm very excited to see not only the program itself, but what comes from the GAP program and Changemaker Challenge in the future.
We're going to do something a little different. In addition to the press being here and being free to ask any questions they'd like, we have a microphone in the center of the room so that anybody else that wants to ask a question. And I'm going to point out Carl Alexander at the end of the table here, who is our Zaxter rep, because many of the questions I get are the very fundamental questions these days, which he's answered more times than he can remember. But at this point, any question that you have for anyone up here, we have microphones. The teams in the back and the folks up front are ready to answer any question you'd like. I know it's 10:30 on a Monday morning or 10:55, but anything that's on your mind.
Is it live? I mean, can we go now? Can I go out and get a bike?
Grab a mic and talk all about it. I could just say yes, but.
To answer your question very quickly, yes, we turned on this morning. So in addition to having this great conference that we put together this morning, all the bikes are ready for riding.
What's the cost?
That's a great question. So we have affordable pricing models that are available for, we wanted to make sure that there was a pricing model available for anyone in the city or visitors. So we've developed a plan that allows for just an hourly membership if somebody's visiting town or just wants to give it a test spin, but also very affordable pricing plans for students and also full-time residents. So have that information in front of you. But It is $60 for an annual membership. That chalks up to about $5 a month if you're a public resident, $2.50 a month if you're a student, $15 we have a monthly membership as well, and then also $3 per hour if you're just ready to ride. And then for each trip you take, the first hour of riding is free if you're on one of those membership plans, and then it's just $3 per hour after that.
You see this on a big orange sign and also in the items that were placed in front of you. Zaxter is the vendor for a lot of cities in Indiana, including Fort Wayne. And so we had a number of conversations with the person that leads the program in Fort Wayne, and this is their pricing model, which has worked very well. They've only launched since April of this year, and as I was talking with their director last week, he said they were at over 60 visits a day, and they've got about a third the number of bikes that we're launching with. So that's how successful it's been already for them.
Is the goal to get people to go ride a bike from one station to another, or just go on a loop and come back to that charging station?
Yes. There are two things that you'll discover as you start to investigate these kind of programs. There's a bike share concept, and there's a bike library concept. Now, the bike library, YMCA already has a bike library, for example. Kristen Durbin said here. And Wellward has been sponsoring that program in cooperation with the Y. It tends to attract two different groups of people, and that's what we looked at. A bike share, you truly can go from station to station around the city. You can certainly bring it back to the original location. You're free to do that. But when you ask the charge structure, if you're being charged for a trip, it does begin and end when you check the bike out and when you check it in. And so the more stations that you have available to you, the more options you have, and the more likely it is that, frankly, if you got the annual plan and wanted to ride around the downtown core right now, you could get to just about anywhere within less than an hour and drop the bike. Now, turn off your mic, Carl, you don't have to hear this, but you would have one fee for the year. You wouldn't be spending money on additional trips at that point at $5 a month. That's very affordable. So that's the concept. And Indianapolis, when they launched, I talked with their person up there at length, and they started with 10 stations, and now they're over 30. I've lost track of how many they have.
Does your membership allow you to use Zaxter in any community that has it?
That's a great question. We're actually working on a new development in our product feature that allows you to be able to join various cities. You can, currently at this point in time, you just need to create another membership.
If you get an annual or monthly membership, can you check out more than one bike, or if you're a family, do you need to get multiple memberships for how many bikes you'll need at a time?
Also another really great question. So at this point in time, just for keeping tracking assets and liability of the bikes, we want to make sure that there is one membership per bike.
You actually do go online and become a member, and so when you go to check out a bike, and you can do that exercise here in a minute if you want, you're going to go online and feed in the bike number, and it's going to give you a code back recognizing who you are, and it's all taken care of that.
So, for example, with the station-to-station bike share, I envision, like, I saw that there's going to be a station at West Ranch Library in Franklin. So sometime next year, I envision that people are really using this program. There's going to be hundreds of people coming to the Franklin Street Bazaar. So are there always going to be enough open spots for the bikes that are coming into the bike stations? How does that work?
One of the interesting things about this program when we started is when the Zaxter folks saw how much community support there was, to the mayor's point, we actually expanded the size of the bike stations to have 5 open spots in each one because they saw that they were going to get a lot of use. That was their opinion. Now, on top of that, we've also designed the program to be flexible so we can increase the number of bike stations. Jared can talk about his experience at West Franklin where he had 3 different organizations call him trying to convince him to put their sponsored station right next to their business. There's certainly more demand than supply so far, is what we're seeing, or at least that's our impression.
This mentions that the program is fully funded. What does the user fee go to then?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
The news release mentions that the program is fully funded by the sponsors. Where does the money go?
Okay, there's two things to talk about with the monetary piece of it. One is the bikes themselves and the stations, and the sponsors have fully funded all the bikes and stations. The second piece are the user fees, and all the sponsors have agreed to funnel that money toward the Trails Coalition. And we are going to be setting that up into a fund to basically be one of the funding sources you'll hear about more in the coming months that are out there to build trails. That's what we're about fundamentally. Bike share was a motivation to try and urge people to build trails. And there are cities that, if you talk to various people around the country, there are cities that hold back, saying, well, we don't have the infrastructure yet. Well, guess what happens as soon as you get a bike share program going? The infrastructure follows quickly because people are demanding it. And a number of cities can make that story too. Carl and I had dinner last night, we were talking about a number of them around the country that have done that. But that money is going in to build trails. Syed has told me that he's got a need in his plan for funding from the community to support building trails. We said, okay, let's find ways to do it. This is one of several ways you'll be hearing about to help do that.
Oh, that actually was my question.
Oh. Hi.
I'd actually like to hear from our high school students and teachers. So often when you do a project for a grade, you close the book, you never see it again. We heard from our university students that one project led to another, led to another, led to another. So my question is twofold. Were you surprised that this came to fruition? And has this energized you to be thinking about your work in different ways?
It sure has. Whenever we first began thinking about the project, coming up with plans, and I'm sure this goes for Memorial's team as well, I doubt we could have imagined it happening this quickly. Personally, as a high school student, the amount of money and effort it would have taken to bring this project forward was just inconceivable. And whenever we competed in the Changemaker Challenge, and then whenever those of us who became college freshmen became part of the university, seeing the help from the faculty, it just made everything seem so achievable, and this is a great reality because of the faculty. Does that answer your question?
I want to follow up to that question and ask several of you, feel free to respond, please. What destinations do you think are your most likely destination when you yourself take out the bicycle?
I'll take that question. Obviously, the one here at the university I think will be greatly used by students here at the university. Also, though, with the several downtown, I feel like students, once they are able to use it here, will travel downtown and ride around downtown, use all the ones downtown. Also, I noticed Deacon Sports Center out on the north side. I can see that being greatly used too with all of the build up around that new baseball stadium out there. They have a nice lap around, I think it's a 1.1 mile lap, bike lap around the stadium, so I see that being greatly used also.
I would bike to the Ford Center to watch UV basketball games. For me, it's really anywhere I want to go. Because of where we're situated, UE, in relation to the rest of the city, because of the infrastructure already in place, there are many different places I can go, Walmart, Eastland Mall, even Ford Center, that are within under an hour biking distance to get there. And so having this allows me to say, all right, now I don't need to go out and find my car and start it and go fill up with more gas. Now I can just get on a bike and go to where I want to go and be there in a very short amount of time. And also get that physical activity that sometimes us college students neglect to get.
My question for the folks up, I mean, I care about you guys, but more about you. So being able to actually affect change and be able to do something to improve a community, does that increase your likelihood of wanting to live here later in life when you graduate?
So I live in the summer in the Northern Virginia area outside DC, so coming up here to Evansville was a pretty big change for me. And this gap class I took my first semester of freshman year. So really my first experience in college, my first experience outside of my home was in the city of Evansville. And now seeing a year from now, all the things we've done with Grant for the Carver Center, this bike share program, our alternative energy gap class, just continuing to do more and more, really helps me see the potential that Evansville has. And it increases, like, I never heard of Evansville before I applied for college. I didn't know this place existed, and now I'm realizing that there's so many great people here, and so many opportunities to improve that really make me believe that this city can do it.
So I had a quick question. I was downtown this Saturday and snapped a photo of the bike share at the pagoda and shared it on the Franklin Street Events Association's page. And you guys need to know that you went viral. It's had 23,000 views. Yes. It's had 525 shares. We have had more than 200 people asking questions. So we edited the post to draw attention to the Evansville Trails Coalition. Thank you. We'll include a link to Zaxter. But if somebody could please respond to the community's overwhelming response to that photo, I wanted to let you know and to give you a huge thank you.
You see why I introduced our marketing committee. They're doing a great job. I was going to interject real quickly. Carl, you might want to talk about the Zaxter bikes have a different feature than you see in a lot of bike share bikes, and they're portable enough you could stop and lock it up wherever you want to. You might want to talk about that feature a little bit. I know it's thrown you a curveball.
Can I interject one thing real quick before you get to that? One thing I wanted to add in regards to the question where it went about the funding. One of the things I know we're trying to do within Bike Share as well as the Trails Coalition itself is change the perception or the misconception of what trails mean. So if you look at the video that's up there, you don't see woodsy stuff, you don't see just dirt and all those kinds of things, because first of all, I wouldn't be out there, but you can see that it's very urban, and so we want people to think about, okay, what do streets have to start to look like? What do neighborhoods need to start to look like so they're more bikeable, more walkable? So when you hear trails, don't take yourself out of the equation and say, oh, I'm not a woodsy kind of person. No, trails means a lot more and expands beyond that. So again, you'll start to see projects that come out of not only Bike Share, but also Trails Coalition, which of course Trails is in the name. But you'll see more projects coming out that sort of speak more to this.
It's interesting, after the chamber visit to Greenville, their Greenway Passage is essentially a length straight passage. We've got an unusual benefit here in that Iris circles the city, which suddenly means that you start to just draw back and look at it and you say, wow, it doesn't mean I would have to go all the way around, I could connect across. And so that's what we're starting to talk about, that it doesn't have to just mean trails, but dedicated bike lanes and the opportunity for people in wheelchairs to push them from one side of town to the other. We need to be that kind of city, and we're headed that way. So Carl, I've given you some chance to think about being able to lock the bike anywhere you go, which is a unique Zaxter trait.
Yeah, thanks, Don. So Zaxter, we utilize what's known as on-bike locking technology. If you've been to bigger cities, Indianapolis, for example, you'll notice these docking stations that you kind of need to ramp up into and it locks in. Those are great, but for our system, the locking technology is on the bike itself. That means at any point in time throughout the duration of your trip, whether you're traveling for transportation purposes, going to work and back, or going to class and back, or just going for lunch either while you're at work for a break, or if you're riding along the river through the trails, you need to lock the bike securely. The lock technology is right there on the bike itself, so throughout the duration of your trip, you can lock up while you're on the go.
So this gives us that opportunity that the students were talking about, that you can really go anywhere with the bike.
What is being done to promote bike safety?
There's going to be a lot. In fact, the Trails Coalition talked about that in our last meeting, that we're going to be approaching the television stations, we're going to be approaching all of the media out there, by the way. You're starting to see how we're starting to get some of the video work done, but to start to talk about sharing the road. It's very critical that there's a mindset that needs to change, that it's not all about just automobiles anymore. And any city around the country you go to, that's the case. We're no different than anyone else in that regard. So we're headed that direction, but we need to get that message out very loud and clear that bikers have the right to the road as well, and so do walkers. And so this is not to say it should be either or. The Complete Streets policy is something that we support for the Trails Coalition, for example. We want to see that happen. But again, this is not something that's going to happen overnight. We realize that. Every city that's done it, it takes some time to change that mindset. But we're definitely going to be promoting safety. And if you actually joined up right now, one of the first messages you get from Zagsters, because I've already done it, is all about safety. They have partnerships with different bike helmet companies to try and get discounts on helmets, for example. Helmet sharing is a bit more problematic. There's not very many cities that do it. Seattle is one that does. And we may still look at that, but it's a bigger challenge to take on. And so we're going to just try and do everything we can to make them affordable and encourage their use. But also all the other things that we'll be talking about. And we have experts on the Trails Coalition board, and I'm looking around the room to see if certain of them made it today, that have been doing, there's Paul, that has been doing the bike safety thing for quite a while, working with the police department, and that's going to increase.
How are the 7 locations selected?
The locations were selected because if you've heard of the Cultural Districts Initiative, there are 5 cultural districts. Our intent was to start out to put one in each of the 5 cultural districts. That was the first step. And secondly, on top of that, to support the Center Core for Evansville. Well, those are kind of simultaneously, they're related. But as we started talking to people, and this is something you'll hear if you talk to different people about bike sharing programs, they'll ask you, what's your objective? Is it transportation or is it recreation? And when I spoke to the person in Indianapolis that leads the cultural trail, she mentioned that. I said, well, what was your objective? She said, well, both. And I said, yeah, that's going to be it for us too. So as we started talking, for example, with Convention Visitor Bureau, who is a very early supporter of this, I will tell you, they said, we've got people coming to this town and we want to make Evansville an interesting place to come with those kind of amenities. So they immediately said the pagoda is a good location. Well, that made a lot of sense for us too, being right on the Greenway and right by the museum as a point of attraction. But they then mentioned Deaconess Sports Park, which wasn't in the original plan, but that's okay. I mean, everything the students were saying earlier is quite right. If you've been out there, people were asking me as we were setting up the bikes there just a few days ago, they were all stopping. There's lots of people walking around that trail and asking questions. And of course, the Heckle Road construction that's going on now, which will have a bike lane next to it. So there's lots of things going on.
Hey John, I got the app and joined while I was sitting here, and I'm not techie. I'm just saying, it was easy.
They make it pretty easy. And
Yearly, you should do it.
I guess you can turn off the notifications, but they start to send you a lot.